What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. Shava, ESPN is reporting that Canelo Alvarez, who's the undisputed super middleweight champion, who holds titles in the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO, his next two fights on a 3-fight deal that he signed with the PBC will be Jermall Crawford, who's the WBC middleweight champion. He'll fight him May 4th, Cinco de Mayo. And then after that, in September, Mexican Independence Day weekend, he'll take on unified welterweight champion Terence Crawford. Now, Crawford, from what I'm hearing, will take an interim fight maybe at 154. Some names that's being linked to him is Erickson Lubin, who's a top 5 junior middleweight. You have some other top junior middleweights. Maybe he could take on the WBC vacant title winner that's going to be on the undercard of Keith Thurman versus Tim Tszyu fight. You got Sebastian Fedora. He's taking on an Eastern European fighter who I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name, but he's a guy that's highly ranked in the WBC. They fighting for a vacant WBC junior middleweight title. He could possibly take on the winner of that. So he got a plethora of opportunities and a plethora of opponents that he could possibly take on sometime in late spring, early summer of 2024. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Now, I've been saying for a little while now, several videos, just go back and check my track record, that Canelo Alvarez is not going to fight David Benavidez. That's, if not the biggest fight to be made for 2024, one of the biggest fights to be made for 2024. David Benavidez is undefeated. He's been stamped of approval from Iron Mike Tyson, calling him the Mexican Monster. He's a guy that, no doubt about it, is the #1 contender for Canelo Alvarez's super middleweight titles. Canelo Alvarez also holds the Ring Magazine junior middleweight title. So he's the unquestioned top dog at 168, but it's nobody in the super middleweight division that deserves a crack at Canelo more than David Benavidez. But David Benavidez and his team need to make a decision now that this report has come out that Canelo Alvarez is not going to fight him in 2024. His next 2 fights will be against Jermall Crawford, who will be coming up from 160. Well, he fought at a catchweight in his last fight when he took on David Benavidez Jr.'s big brother, Jose Benavidez Jr., who was basically a career welterweight. He might even started at 140, but when he really came on the scene, he was at 147. He's able to defeat him by unanimous decision. He looked pretty good in that fight, but in my opinion, I think Jermall Crawford needs one more fight before he takes on an opponent like Canelo Alvarez and actually has a chance to win that fight or be competitive in that fight. I think he probably needs one more step-up fight from his previous opponent in Jose Benavidez Jr., maybe a Caleb Plant, or maybe a Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. You get through that, then that would give the boxing fans a little bit more excited for that potential matchup. But regardless of what I want and what a lot of people want, that's not the route that Canelo Alvarez and the PBC are going to follow. They're going to take on Jermall Crawford in May and take on Terence Crawford in September in a fight that's going to do great numbers. Canelo Alvarez is guaranteed to make $50 million. Really don't matter who he fight. He can fight me and make $50 million. But when you look at his minimum of $50 million, his potential to double that or triple that, it's no bigger fight out there than a Terence Bud Crawford fight outside of David Benavidez. Jermall Crawford would do great numbers. I don't think it'll do as good of numbers as his previous fight with his brother, Jermall Crawford, which did 650,000 pay-per-view buys. This fight, in my opinion, probably do around, but I think a cap on this fight is probably around 500,000 pay-per-view buys. But even with that number, it's still going to generate a lot of dollars, and if it ain't making dollars, it ain't making sense. So that's what's going down, man. Chavez, ESPN is reporting that Canelo Alvarez told you guys in his last interview that y'all got to be patient if y'all want the David Benavidez clash, that you might not get it when you want to get it, but it still could happen somewhere in the future. But I believe it's never going to happen, because Canelo Alvarez said last year that he ain't fighting any more Mexican fighters. He's not fighting any more Latino fighters. After he fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., that fight was way back in, 2017? Here we are in 2024, 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. We're looking at that. The last time that Canelo Alvarez fought a fellow Mexican fighter was 6+ years ago. So he's not only showing you with his words, but he's showing you with his actions. And people out here still saying that, oh man, he's gonna fight David Benavidez. He's gonna fight him. Man, Canelo don't duck no smoke. He don't duck no fade. He gonna take on David Benavidez. I don't think he's scared of David Benavidez. I just think when you go back and look at that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, you go to the lead up to that fight, all that was going on before that fight took place. It was a lot of bad blood, a lot of trash talking. There was a lot of personal insults. And you look at the fact that his idol, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., was the dad of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. when he fought him at a catchweight of 164. He won that fight decisively. I think him going against his idol son and beating him left a bad taste in his mouth, and he said, okay, no more. I'm not fighting any more Mexican fighters. This is the last time I'm going to do that. I'm going to take on Eastern European fighters, and I'm going to take on African American fighters, and that's going to be it. And he told you that last year, so I don't know why we surprised. I don't know why people was still believing that Canelo Alvarez was going to actually fight David Benavidez, as part of this 3-fight deal with the PBC. I don't know why people even really seriously consider that a possibility, because it obviously wasn't based on the words and actions of Canelo Alvarez. So with all that being said, man, I'm very much looking forward to the matchup between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. Now, he must take care of business with Jermall Crawford, which I believe he will do. Terrence Crawford must get an interim fight. He cannot wait. Get the Errol Spence Jr. fight next. Get that out the way if I'm Terrence Crawford. If I can't get that fight, I'm going to... that fight going to be at 154. The last fight was at 147 for supremacy of the welterweight division. The next fight at 154, if the rematch occurs with Errol Spence Jr., that would be in the junior middleweight division. You get that win over Errol Spence Jr., then you set the stage for your matchup, mega fight with Canelo Alvarez. If Errol Spence Jr. is not ready for whatever reason, that fight is not sellable to the boxing fans, then you move up to 154 and you take on one of the top fighters at 154. Tim Tszyu is tied up with Keith Thurman, so you take the next highest available guy that fights under the PBC banner. That could be Erickson Lubin, that could be Sebastian Fundora, or the guy that he's fighting in March, the Eastern European fighter. Whoever comes out victorious, you'll be able to fight the winner of that for a WBC junior middleweight title. You'll be able to collect the belt at 154, and it won't be as drastic of a weight jump from 147 to 168. You'll be coming up from 154, having a fight at 154, a strong contender at 154. Get that win, and it'll be much more sellable to the public coming up from 154 to 168 instead of coming up from 147 to 168. Now, I know a lot of Jerome Boots Ennis fans, who's the up-and-coming guy in the welterweight division, a guy that's getting a lot of accolades, a guy that's getting a lot of fanfare. A lot of his fans want to see Terrence Crawford step up and take on that young lion, but it's not a good fight for Terrence Crawford at this point of his career, because he's not going to make a lot of money in that fight. High risk, low reward. He's fighting a guy that really has not been properly promoted. Let's just say it like that. He ain't been properly promoted. A guy as good as him should be much more known to the boxing fans. Outside of the hardcore boxing fans, the casual boxing fans don't know who Jerome Boots Ennis is, don't know nothing about him. So he hasn't had the proper promotion. He's just now started headlining his own main event fights. He's been wanting to get the top fighters in the ring, but for whatever reason, they don't want to fight him. And sometimes it's up to his management to offer those guys maybe more than what they should deserve, and he might have to take a little less than what he deserved to get that opportunity, to get that big fight on his resume, to catapult him to that next level in the sport of boxing. So far, he's not been willing to do that, and he's basically been a guy that's been avoided by the bigger names in and around the welterweight division. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard Briscoe. Like, share, subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.